Hello and welcome to the agenda. I am Ajay Kaul. In this program today, we will talk about the Rohingya refugee issue. About a month back, the Jammu and Kashmir government rounded up 168 Rohingya refugees from Myanmar and put them up at holding centers in Jammu as part of a move to deport them back to Myanmar. Yesterday, the Supreme Court ruled that the detainees shall not be deported without following the prescribed procedure. This comes amidst apparent lack of clarity in the government over the issue of deciding the fate of Rohingya refugees who apparently fled their country because of persecution. In the agenda today, we will deliberate on this various aspects of this matter to understand the whole issue. We have with us retired diplomat Ambassador Ashok Sajanhar, Advocate Rajesh Gogna, who is Secretary General of Human Rights Defence International, and from Jammu we are joined by Advocate Ankur Sharma, who heads Ekjut Jammu organization. But before we begin our conversation, have a look at this small report.
The Supreme Court has ruled that Rohingya refugees detained in Jammu shall not be deported to Myanmar without following the prescribed procedure. The issue relates to 168 Rohingya refugees, including women and children who have been rounded up from various parts of Jammu and lodged in holding centers in Hiranagar, sub-jail in Kachua under the Foreigners Act. Thousands of Rohingya tribals from the western Rakhine state of Myanmar reached India some years back after fleeing their native country because of alleged crackdown by Myanmar army. The order of the Supreme Court bench, headed by Chief Justice of India S.A. Bobde, came on a plea filed by Rohingya refugees. The plea stated that these refugees have been illegally detained and jailed in the Jammu sub-jail, which has been converted into a holding center, with the IGP Jammu Mukesh Singh stating that they face deportation back to Myanmar following verification by their embassy. Referring to reports of their imminent deportation, the plea had said this goes against India's commitment to refugee protection and its obligations against refolding refugees to a place where they face persecution, and is a violation of Article 21 right of all Rohingya persons living in India. However, the top court's order also means that now Rohingyas can be sent back to Myanmar, as it did not give any direction against deportation. Bureau Report.
Now let's welcome our guests, Ambassador Sajanhar, Advocate Gogna and Advocate Sharma from Jammu. So I'll first go to Advocate Gogna about the Supreme Court ruling yesterday, which says that the Rohingya refugees cannot be deported without following the prescribed procedure. I guess that is the normal thing to do, but can you elaborate on this? What does it mean?
So because the due procedure of law is always followed by any responsible state, and India being a democratic country and a responsible state is always adhering to the due procedure of law. Now the question arises as to what is the due procedure of law. Whenever a foreigner is detected, then how those foreigners are to be handled and how they are to be deported. The provisions with regard to the foreigners are there in the Foreigners Act 1946, and 1946, the definition clause, definition of this foreigner says that any person who is not a citizen of India is a foreigner. So
Right.
there may be a person who is a foreigner who has come after applying for a visa. A foreigner can be an illegal immigrant.
Right.
A foreigner can be any person who has entered into this country and is residing here and staying here without the authority of law. So when that authority of law is not there, then as per the Foreigners Act, the central government can put that person in a protected area as per the provisions of the Foreigners Order 1948, and once those persons who are considered to be foreigners and living in this country without any authority, they are put in a protected area, then the process of their deportation or their return to their country of origin is started.
Right.
Now, for the purpose of deporting or handing over those illegal immigrants or foreigners to the country of their origin, it is necessary that an information should be sent to the country of their origin, in case it may be Myanmar, that your citizen named so-and-so, so-and-so, so-and-so is residing in our country. He is not wanted to remain in our country. He wants to hand over this person, which we consider is the citizen of your country. Kindly initiate the process of taking over the custody of those persons who are illegally residing in our country, that is India.
Right.
Once that request is sent to the country of origin, then the state of India waits for the response from the country of origin, because they have to verify and ensure that the person who the government of India is claiming are the citizens of Myanmar, are in fact the citizens of Myanmar. So once they verify these facts, that those persons who are residing in India are the citizens of Myanmar, only then they can send the information to the government of India. Yes, the so-and-so person, Mr. XYZ, who has been held up in your country, is citizen of our country, and we are willing to take over the custody of that person whenever the government of India desires. Once this information is received from the country of origin, then the process of handing over is started, and the representative of that country comes to India, and the person is handed over to him.
That is the normal procedure. Yeah. So I'll go to Ambassador Sajanhar. So as you heard Advocate Gogna explaining the procedure, due procedure, what I mean, that is applicable to all illegal immigrants or who advertently in fact cross borders, isn't it? So why does it have to come to the Supreme Court to say that? The government of India can on its own do that, no? Because since we are at signatory to so many international treaties. Ambassador Sajanhar.
Yeah, I guess someone or the other would definitely have approached the Supreme Court. Even these people who are going to be sent back, they would have approached the Supreme Court, because after all, if you are talking about the Rohingyas, then they have fled Myanmar because of the persecution that they have experienced there. That having been said, we also need to bear in mind that India has been very welcoming to all ethnicities, all religions that have been persecuted in different countries through the ages. You look at Zoroastrians, they came here, they were persecuted in Iran, they came here in the 9th century AD. And they have been welcomed. Their stay here has been, they are very happy. Their numbers might be very small, but the sort of contributions that they have made to Indian society, Indian culture, whether it is people like Ratan Tata or Homi Bhabha or Zubin Mehta, all those people are from the Jews also came here in 7th century BC and also more subsequently in the 15th century AD. So people have come to India throughout. The Tibetans, His Holiness the Dalai Lama came here in 1959. And basically India has been a very, very welcoming country as far as that is concerned.
Right.
Now I think as far as Rohingyas are concerned, there are certain security issues, there are certain security aspects that are involved in this. And that is why the government had said that, these people who have come, they should be sent back. Now, the problem as far as the Rohingyas is concerned is that, in Myanmar, there are 135 minorities which are recognized as citizens of the country. Rohingyas are not one of them, because, the law in Myanmar is that people who lived in that country before 1823, when the Britishers came there, only they would be treated as the citizens. They would be acknowledged and accepted as citizens of Myanmar.
Right.
Now, Rohingyas, they actually even use of the term Rohingya in Myanmar is forbidden, because these people are called Bengalis, because they say that these people came
Are from
from
Bangladesh.
Bengal, and
Yeah.
they were brought in there by the British for whatever, whether it was for mining purposes or it was for tea plantations or it was for timber plantations. So these are the people who were brought by the British. So they are not even recognized as citizens. So even in Myanmar, they are stateless citizens. And of course, when they come to India, when they flee to India, they are, what Advocate Gogna said is very correct, but there is also another category, because they all would like to seek asylum here. And if the High Commissioner for Refugees, if it accepts and accords them, the asylum status as refugees, then they will be treated as such. Otherwise, they are really stateless citizens because they don't belong to any state.
Right.
But that having been said, the normal human rights procedures will need to be observed if they are to be given back. And as we know, it will have to be a conversation, a dialogue with the receiving government, which is the Myanmarese government.
Right.
And as I explained, the Myanmarese government will not accept them because they say that they are not our citizens. So, we will not be accepting them. So it is a catch-22 situation.
Yes.
It is, a problem. It's a dilemma for the government also.
Yeah, so I'll go to Ankur Sharma, advocate who is in Jammu. So because the problem has arisen in Jammu, they have been identified and kept in holding centers. So Ankur, I want to ask you, see, as you heard that they are stateless people and it's a human rights issue. So, and India, as Ambassador pointed out, that has been welcoming to all kinds of refugees all over, over centuries. So what is the problem if we can, if there are some thousands or maybe few thousands of Rohingyas in Jammu?
No, human rights issue or a human issue is a very stale argument that these people have been putting forward. But as far as the state of Jammu and Kashmir is concerned, these people have been used as pawns in the larger game plan of unleashing demographic assault against them. I mean, these are illegal immigrants. That's one. Second, then, apart from that humanitarian argument, there is an act called Foreigners Act, under which the government of India is duty bound to deport them. And three, the government of India, while deporting, would be talking to the government of Myanmar and only in accordance with the procedure established under law would be sending them back. Now, putting them into holding out centers means what? Are they being tortured there? The answer is no. When you make them roam free, they are occupying state land here. They have become a law and order situation. They have been aid to foreign insurgents in carrying out terrorist attacks on our bases. In Jammu, as far as I know, they are settled in areas which are in very close proximity to the security establishment, and there is a recorded, documentation against them that they are aiding terrorism in JNK as well. Now, the fundamentalist Islamists are using these people as pawns for even changing the demography of them apart from other means. For instance, the Act under the Roshni Act, in February Act, settlement of these people, their illegal occupation of state lands, forest lands, river lands by members of a particular community, the same community to which these people also belong. So where is the question of human rights? Human rights and humanitarian angles are used to cover up imperialist and hegemonic agendas of these jihadists. Why should we allow them to do this cakewalk?
Okay, Ankur.
I think it was high time. Yes.
Yeah, Ankur, do you have any estimates how many these people must be there in Jammu? And are all those
anywhere between 25 to 35,000, and I'm telling you that this is a data which was made available to us some 3 years back. Now their numbers might have multiplied because their reproduction and procreation rate is exponential.
So
only 170 of them has been put up in holding out centers. The government is also doing an eyewash because we in 2014 in Jammu started a movement against these settlements. And then awareness programs were created. The government of UT of J&K, then state of J&K, under pressure formed an empowered group of ministers to oust the Rohingyas from Jammu. And they did nothing. then there were litigations in Supreme Court. In fact, there was a litigation here in J&K High Court also. So now the Supreme Court has passed this decision. I think the government of India now remains with no excuse to not take action against them.
Right.
You talk to any country, you talk to other Islamic countries surrounding
so
Myanmar,
Ankur,
they are also
yeah,
taking illegal, because the problems with illegal immigrants are multifold. And the solution is to send them back. If the government of India is deciding to send them back, what should be the problem that a normal Indian citizen should have?
Yeah, so you said that there are about 25 or 30,000 people. So are they all involved in terrorism? You say, are they all, involved in security issues?
I'm telling you, they are involved in petty crimes. They are involved in serious crimes. They are involved in encroaching forest lands and state lands there in Jammu. And they are a target of ISI and other Islamic there in J&K. They are being trained to fall in suicide against India. There are intelligence reports which are reported in the mainstream media also. It's a group which is very, very vulnerable. And it is the same group which is fighting a war of secessionism on the same principle which the secessionists in Kashmir are fighting in J&K. Myanmar, they had to run away from that place only because they were demanding secession of their province from Myanmar on the basis of religion. So we are in majority now. Same principle is being followed in Jammu and Kashmir by the secessionists. They are natural allies and they are being used. Their intelligence. This is very important. The intelligence report describes them as ticking time bomb.
Okay. So let me go to Advocate Gogna. You heard Ankur Sharma, what he says, advocate. He is also advocate who is saying from Jammu. And what is your response? So he says they are involved in security issues, terrorism, and they are like a cannon fodder for ISI and what do you say?
For responding to Mr. Ankur Sharma, who is a dear friend also, because Mr. Ambassador Ashok had stated that the Commissioner of Human Rights, if he recognizes the Rohingyas as refugees, then the Government of India is under obligation to provide all the protections which are available to the refugees, to all those persons.
No, that is another aspect. But we are talking about if they are security risks. So what is harm in deporting them?
So fine, sir. If someone is a security risk, or someone has committed a crime, or someone is illegally residing in this country, they belong to the same category.
Yeah.
Because ultimately they have to be handed over to the country of their origin, and for the purpose of handing over to the country of their origin.
But you heard Ambassador Sajjan that they are not even accepted by the home country. They don't recognize them, so they are stateless people. Where should they set them?
Mr. Ambassador is 100% right about it.
Yeah.
Because ultimately, if you are deporting someone, you will deport that person to the country of his origin.
Accepting that country has to accept them. Yeah.
That they are their citizens. Ambassador Ashok has very appropriately said the major conflict with the Rohingyas is that the government of Myanmar don't recognize them as their citizens.
Right.
So, as far as Rohingyas are concerned, you may say that they belong to Myanmar, but to my understanding, if I am not wrong, Mr. Ashok will endorse me, they have the status of being a stateless person, which is again a different category. So even
where should they be deported? See, yesterday's Supreme Court ruling says don't deport them without prescribed procedure. But Supreme Court doesn't say don't deport them at all.
Definitely. The command of the law says, Foreigners Act says, that person is to be kept in safe custody and is to be handed over to the country of his origin.
Yes.
That is the settled proposition of law.
Yeah.
That is the procedure is to be followed.
Okay, Ambassador Sajjan, as we talked about, they are stateless, as you mentioned, stateless, but as Ankur says, they are security risks. So what should be done by the government in that case?
I think Advocate Ankur Sharma has a very valid point because, when this whole thing started, meaning of course Rohingyas have been coming to India for a long time, but if we look at the current problem that it started, in 2017, if my memory serves me correctly, it was the 25th of August in 2017 when this whole thing started, and these people, the Rohingyas who are living in the Rakhine area in Myanmar,
right,
they went about and started killing policemen and creating law and order issues and engaging in violence and also putting police stations and police vehicles on fire. And it was only after that that the Myanmar's army responded in a very brutal manner, in a very repressive
Crackdown,
manner. Crackdown, yes, killing a sort of a genocide there, and about 800 to 900,000 people left, and they
Ambassador,
fled to Bangladesh.
Myanmar army is known for that. I mean, they are doing still now, even now they are cracking down and undertaking repression.
We need to differentiate, Ajay. We need to differentiate.
Yeah.
Because what is happening today, what started on the 1st of February, it is against their own citizens. Okay, it is against the Myanmarese people because they have sort of, it's a coup that has taken place.
Yeah.
So, they want to establish their own authority. Please don't confuse it with the sort of situation that prevailed and that occurred in 2017 when they, started the crackdown on the Rohingyas and the Rohingyas were forced to flee. Here they are, the people there are trying to overturn the government there and bring in the democratic form of government. So, the two cases are entirely different. And maybe, you have discussed this, the current situation in Myanmar on your program many times.
Yeah.
But since we are talking about the Rohingyas, also, and you had asked me the question about the comment of Mr. Ankush Sharma. As I said, he has a very valid point because around that time, there was this Arakan Rohingya Salvation Army that was established. And the chief of that gathering, of that grouping, was a person from Pakistan, and he was based in Saudi Arabia. And he was the one who was directing all these activities in the Rakhine area of Myanmar.
Right.
And maybe, you can agree, and I will agree with anyone who says that the attack and the repression by the Myanmar army at that time was very brutal. You would have seen that, there were so many fingers raised against Madame Aung San Suu Kyi. She had also even to appear in person at the International Court of Justice. And there were so many voices which said that, her Nobel Prize for Peace should be retracted because she has not taken any action. But the point is, now there are, according to my information, there are about 40,000 Rohingyas, illegal Rohingyas who are in India. As far as the Bangladeshi illegals are concerned, I think they would go in millions. I have worked in Bangladesh. I know that they have come here not because of any political persecution, but because they want better economic opportunities in India.
Right.
But have we been able to, we have the best of relations with Bangladesh. Have we been able to return any of these Bangladeshi people who have come here illegally? Of course, with passage of time, they've even got their ration card. They might even have got some, residence documentation proof, Aadhaar cards and all that sort of thing. But it is a very difficult proposition. Now, even though the government might say that we want to return them, but the path to that is a political statement. But if you want to really implement it, that's going to be extremely difficult because neither Myanmar will accept them, nor, as I said, Bangladesh will accept them.
Right.
The last comment I'll make here, Ajay, is that Bangladesh today has more than 900,000, 9 lakh illegal Rohingyas. They are putting them up on separate islands. They are sending them away because they are, as far as the social fabric of the country is concerned, because they are demanding resources, they are demanding assets from here. And that is a big, huge drain on on the finite resources of any particular country.
Right.
So it is a challenge. It's a difficult challenge. The Supreme Court can say whatever it has to, and those conditions will, in any case, have to be followed if the deportation or sending back is to be carried out.
Right. So, Advocate Ankush Sharma, I come to you. As you heard Ambassador Sajjanar saying that it is extremely difficult to carry out deportation. So, perhaps these Rohingyas or those who bring them here, they know about this, that it is once you come in, now it's almost impossible to be sent back, like we have seen in the case of Bangladeshis. So, is that lacune being exploited by such people?
So I think where there is will, there is way. As far as I understand, the government of India has achieved the last 6 years there in J&K, it is clearly established that there was no will. First and second, we do not have any option but to deport them back. Now, how it can be done, I think this can be handled at diplomatic level. The government of India can take up this matter with Myanmar, or it can find another way. But immediately what can be done is the following. I mean, Jammu and Kashmir is already a troubled state. And you have these people coming right down from Bangladesh and Bengal, more than 3,000 miles, and come here in an organized manner, settle here, occupy land, settle near security establishment. As far as J&K is concerned, they have to be immediately taken up. They have to be immediately deported. They can be put up at somewhere in Bihar or Bengal at the bordering state, from where they can be sent again. And you have to have more holding out centers, more camps where these people are regularly monitored. Their movement should be watched, and you can't allow them to just mix into the society. I mean, there is a phenomenon here in J&K where these people are marrying their girls to the residents of Kashmir. So they're mixing with the local population. They're changing names also, and they are several of them. I've seen those reports are working as.
Yeah. So, but as
you know, as a matter of.
Yeah, carry on.
Terrorism program, you see there.
No, as we understand, I mean, as we
only the UP of J&K, and there are you name them. I mean, they have names also now very popular. Terrorists who is involved as active terrorists, and the ideology connects them. So why should they settle, or should be allowed to settle land surrounding military establishments? You talk about Sunjwan attack, you talk about Nagrota attack in J&K. These names dropped up, and the overground support was given by these people, and they're poor people, they're vulnerable, ideologically compliant. They are being used against anti-India activities. That is something which cannot be condoned. And as far as other UN conventions and treaties are concerned, I can tell you that India is not a signatory to the Treaty of Non-Refoulement of UN. I mean, India is a state which doesn't even take care of its own internally displaced people. You talk about Kashmiri Hindus who were hounded out, genocide. It doesn't even recognize that genocide happened. And now the government of India tells these Kashmiri Hindus to go back and settle back in Kashmir without doing anything substantial. Here it does not recognize the principle of non-refoulement, that they can be refouled once again if they go back without having their own domain established in J&K. So, I mean, these are double standards also. People who talk about non-refoulement for Rohingyas, they say that non-refoulement is not applicable for Kashmiri Hindus. I think that's purely an ideological stand. And I can tell you where there is will, there is way we can shove these people down the throat of Myanmar government if government of India decides to do so.
Yeah, you are right that where there is a will, there is a way. But as we talked about the procedures, like the host receiving country,
so the two things. Procedure has to be followed, and the state operates only in terms of in accordance with the procedure. So there is Foreigners Act. You read Foreigners Act. First of all, apart from procedure, there is a responsibility cast on the government of India to not allow these foreigners permanently settle in the country. You first of all talk to the government of India. Ask them about the implementation of the Foreigners Act.
But Ankur,
if you can't, if in the name of procedure you allow,
but advocate Ankur, the procedure. I mean, the practical problems are like you can't just push them out of the border. I mean, the receiving country has to accept them that they are our citizens, and we have to accept them. That is the procedures. You just can't push them at the border and go, isn't it? That is the real practical problem. Advocate Ankur.
You start creating pressure on the government of Myanmar. Let's start protecting them. First of all, remove all these people from all those lands which are adjoining or adjacent to the security establishment. Can you do that? Can you see that these people don't marry their girls to the residents of India? Can you see that happening? Can you quarantine them? Provide them food. Absolutely, I'm okay with that. Provide them security. Put them in holding out centers. Give them all kinds of human rights. Quarantine them also, because ultimately they will have to be deported. Or if you have accepted that now these people have come and these people now will continue to remain here and ultimately they will be hit, then that's a different story. Then I think you will be violating your own constitution, Foreigners Act. And if you cannot implement Foreigners Act, let the Parliament of India resolve that we'll repeal this act, we'll withdraw this act, because there's no way we can implement.
Right. So, Advocate Gogna, I come to you about, as you heard Advocate Ankur saying, giving a lot of suggestions about create more holding centers and put them in these detention centers and all. Is that the option available? I mean, the viable option, I'll say.
I perfectly agree with Ankush Sharma ji, because when he says that they should not be left open so that they can go anywhere, have their exploit the resources of India. And as far as the Foreigners Act is also concerned, they have to kept in a protected area.
But Advocate Gogna, if they are put up in detention centers, they have to be fed. They can't be just idling out, and our state resources are used to feed them and do other things, isn't it?
That is also.
So they have to work.
Because if someone is kept in a protected area, which is as so defined in the Foreigners Act, then the responsibility of providing them the food, providing them the health facilities.
So that is the cost. That is the cost.
That becomes the responsibility of the government of India.
Right.
So if this number is 150 or 200 or 500 or 600, it is okay. The government of India can take this burden. But if the number, as my dear friend is suggesting, that the number even in Jammu and Kashmir is around 1 lakh. So if it is 1 lakh, and if 1 lakh people are to
he
be
said
kept
30,000. He said 30,000. We had to conclude. Yeah, I think he said 30,000.
30,000, fine. So even if it is 30,000, then the central government or the government of Jammu and Kashmir.
Briefly, please, because we have to conclude the program. Yeah.
So it is going to be a huge burden, but in the national interest and keeping in view that there is threat to the national integrity and national security.
Yes.
Even this burden is not a very big burden. It can be easily borne by the state.
Okay, so that I think the puzzle continues, that the dilemma will continue for some time to come, because till the government evolves a policy what to do about them. But the time of this program is over today. Thank you, all of you, for participating.
Thank you.
This is all in the agenda today. Thanks for watching. I'll be back with another important topic tomorrow. Till then, goodbye.